Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the water cooler. My name is Ryan Saba. I am electrifying, the most electrifying voice in sports information. And with me as always,
It's me, it's Lukey C, a.k.a. Sports Teddy Roosevelt. I may not have the biggest impact of the Mount Rushmore 4, but I was there the longest.
wasn't Teddy Roosevelt in a wheelchair?
I don't know, Matt. Let's not get into all the semantics. All right, what are we talking about today?
Take Teddy. Take Teddy.
Take Teddy.
Today,
Teddy. I like that.
Today we're going to talk about two things, okay? We're going to talk about our Mount Rushmore of sports. At the end, we're going to talk about who we think potentially one day could crack into that Mount Rushmore. But before we get in there, I want to talk about something very, very important. And if we can get through all of our technical issues, hopefully we can post this in time for our fans to hear this. Next Thursday night, we are participating. We have been invited to join into really a 15-year tradition, an annual tradition in Greensboro. There is a bar, the bar that Luke and I actually met at, which is called Stumblestiltskins, that holds an annual draft party every year. They give all the participants an opportunity to come in, fill out a sheet for the top 10 picks. If they pick the top 10 picks, they win $1,000. The people who get the closest get all kinds of bar swag from like Sam Adams and the liquor companies and those types of things. That piece of it is still happening. Myself, Luke, obviously, Brian Hernandez, who is on Zero Dark Nerdy, he is the, you know what, I'm not even going to say that because that'll just stroke his ego too much. I'm on another podcast that I participate in that he sort of is the brainchild of. And then Chris Flathers, who is the owner of Stumblestiltskins. The four of us are we're going to hang around as long as possible. You know, I don't know if we can do a full 3.5-hour show, but I think we'll definitely stick around for at least, I don't know, me and Luke may end up doing the whole.
I'll have takes. So
we may end up doing the whole first round, but we encourage you guys to obviously participate in that. Send in your picks. You'll have an opportunity. There'll be a sheet that'll go out. We'll distribute it out on our social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at WC Sports Pod, the Zero Dark Nerdy page, and the Stumblestiltskins Facebook page and all that. There's going to be all this information going out. We're going to be retweeting it, re-IGing it, re-Facebooking it from our personal pages and all that. So you guys will all have an opportunity to see that. Make sure you're following all these sites that are attached. All the handles and all that will be on the communication, and just join in and have fun. We're probably going to give opportunities for people to kind of call in and be part of the four and give their takes and things like that. So with that, let's get back to what we're doing right now. Right now, we're talking about our Mount Rushmore, our four top athletes. And there's some caveats here, right? It's not only did they have to play during our lifetimes, but their prime had to be in our lifetimes. Like there's no, George Gervin or whatever, who, his last year was 1983, right? So I think that, that's critical for us. Mount Rushmore. So don't add us, don't start yelling at us because, we didn't include Bill Russell or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or whatever, because we didn't see these people play, Johnny Unitas, the whole 9 yards, Jim Brown. So just think about that. So, and at the end of it, we're going to have a couple players who are under the age of 25 or under, who potentially could be on this Mount Rushmore when it's all said and done 15, 20 years from now. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I cannot wait. I could probably tell you, pick your list for you, but I'm going to go ahead and let's hear it.
It's not, come on. I'm very on brand here, but we're going to start. I want to say no particular order, but I'm going to start with number 4. But, and that is one of the most dominant athletes of our time, Serena Williams.
Ah, interesting.
23 Grand Slams,
most
all time. Second all time in appearances. She's got an 85.3% winning percentage as a singles player. She won 6 Grand Slam titles without losing a set. Like, I don't know how to explain like how difficult that might be. 6 Grand Slam titles. Now it had been done one other time. Martina Navratilova, I believe, was another one to do it. But 6 Grand Slam titles without losing a set.
Going deep into the women's tennis, huh?
She's got 14 doubles Grand Slam titles.
Martina Navratilova.
And she's a 5-time AP Athlete of the Year. 5-time AP Athlete of the Year. So
yeah.
You know, one of the most dominant athletes that we've seen. Not even male or female, just one of the most dominant. She ran the sport, and she still kind of does. I mean, I believe right now she's ranked 5th.
Not to mention she had a fucking baby.
Yeah, and in the middle of all, yeah, she was
like plenty pregnant.
She won a Grand Slam while she was pregnant. I mean, this is amazing. She's just
look. I think the people on the other side of that will talk about, you know, sort of the weakness of the sport. You know, you mentioned Martina Navratilova at that time. There was a Steffi Graf. There was a Chris Everett. There was some other players.
Those are the other 3 that are close to her. Aside from that, though, I mean, there's really just not.
Once she got over the mountain of her sister, because early on, if you remember, you know, Venus was actually the better player. Once she got over the mountain of Venus, you know, she was dominant from that point on.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous from there. But she's definitely on there for me.
Good, coming out strong.
Yeah, going from there. Number 3 is probably my favorite, maybe my second favorite sport, but it's from football, and it's to me the greatest quarterback that's ever played, Peyton Manning.
Shocking.
So Peyton Manning, let's brag a little bit on Peyton. We got Peyton's a 5-time MVP. No one else even has 4, and that includes everybody else's GOAT, Tom Brady, who only has 3. 2-time Super Bowl champ. Second all-time playoff yards and touchdowns. Third all-time touchdowns.
Who's he behind in that one?
Third all-time to in touchdowns to Drew Brees and Tom Brady, who just passed him last year. He's actually played more games than Drew Brees, but Drew Brees had just passed him. He's a 7-time All-Pro to Brady's 3. And then, you know, there's always talk about, not really anymore. I'm pretty much the only one left on Peyton Goat Island, but I've always gone back to this when they've played at the same time, which was 2000 to 2015. And it excludes 2 years, 2011, the year that Peyton missed with his back injury, and 2008, the year Brady missed with his knee injury. So I'm just going to go over just some real quick numbers when they both played. Peyton was 6-time first team All-NFL. Brady was 3-time. Peyton was a 4-time MVP. Brady was a 3-time MVP. Peyton was 3-time second team. Brady was 2-time. And they both led the league 3 times in yards, and they both led the leagues 4 times in touchdowns. And then just for a little cherry on top, you know, if that's not persuasive enough, Peyton Manning is 3-1 all time in AFC Championship games against Tom Brady. So everything's on the line there. You know, win or go home in the championship setting, and Manning is 3-1. So that's just kind of my take there. I mean, that's just kind of a synopsis real quick of my Brady versus Manning takes. But, you know, to me, there's just not much better than Peyton. I mean, 14-time Pro Bowl, like I said, 7-time All-Pro, comeback player of the year, 5-time MVP, just tops for me. Number 2 on the Mount Rushmore, on the Crocker Mount Rushmore, Tiger Woods, y'all. Golf's arguably greatest player. 82 wins, first all time, 15 majors and counting. He went from 2008 till last year. I think everyone's pretty familiar. He won the Masters in 2019. Reigning Masters champ as of now. This is, it got pushed back till November. One thing I didn't really understand was he's 41 Euro Tour wins, which is 3rd all time. He's not even a full-time Euro Tour member. The second, only ahead of him is Seve Ballesteros and Bernard Langer, just
Hall of Fame, great
major Euro stalwarts. The closest active to him on that list is Lee Westwood, who has 25. Who's not going to get anywhere close to 41. He'll probably never win again on the Euro Tour.
All low on Lee Westwood, huh? Buried him.
Hey, I like Lee. I want him to play on the next Ryder Cup team. But anyway, youngest ever to win the Masters, which was actually the oldest of the 4 majors, which was kind of surprising. He was 21 years, 3 months. He won by 12. He won that tournament by 12 strokes when he was 21 years old. He won the 2000 U.S. Open by 15, which is the largest.
Yeah, and that shit was crazy. He had that wrapped up on like Thursday. I remember it.
Yeah,
I think Thursday, going in on Thursday, he had like a 7 or 8 stroke lead.
Mm-hmm. 683 weeks as the world number 1. The second is Greg Norman, who has 331 weeks.
He's a choke artist.
And this was also I know I looked at that. I can't believe he only has 2 majors. The guy is second by a long shot as world number 1, and he has 2 majors to tie.
Well, he had the biggest choke. I mean, he squandered like a 6 or 7 stroke lead on Sunday at the Masters one year.
Yeah, he's got that fill. He's got a little fill in him in that regard.
Yeah.
But he's got 4 spots on the top 10 longest streaks as number 1.
Yeah.
Including numbers 1 and 2 at 261 weeks and 281 weeks. And that's last but not least, he's a 4-time AP Athlete of the Year. So we got Serena's a 5-time, Tiger's a 4-time. And last but not least, I believe everyone knows where I'm going here. No real big surprise. Very on brand, as you can see here. Number 1 on that list is the greatest basketball player of all time from the greatest city of all time, LeBron James from Akron, Ohio. 3-time champ, 4-time MVP. Only Kobe and Kareem have more. Can make a very strong argument that he was in play for this year's MVP before all this COVID-19. 12-time first team, most ever. 3-time AP Player of the Year. He's got 2 gold medals. I mean, you can go on and on. I mean, I've talked at length on this podcast about LeBron James, and just he's the greatest ever. I'm not watching this upcoming documentary that's a farce on the mothership. I'm not going to be watching it. I'll be replaying Game 7 from the 2016 MVP or NBA Finals over and
You'll
over.
be the only one.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
You can throw that on Peyton Island.
Hey, I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable being the only one there. You know,
this is your list.
Hey, I'm confident. I'm confident in my takes. I believe in my takes, and that's my list. So we got Serena.
Your list. You're not wrong. I'm totally. I think you got a good list.
We got Serena, Peyton, Tiger, LeBron.
Yeah.
My honorable mention. I'm not going to go into any kind of details, but I left them off the playing surface problems. Was Mike Tyson.
That's an interesting one.
I think
youngest heavyweight champion of all time.
Yeah, just through the middle of it, just unbelievable,
devastating. That's good. Is it my turn?
That's my Mount Rushmore. 4 of them.
I'm going to start with my honorable mentions. Right at the top of I have a few. Again, this is my list. Similar to yours, I don't really think you're right or you're wrong. I mean, it's subjective when you start talking Mount Rushmores. They're personal Mount Rushmores. Serena is on my honorable mention. I think for all the reasons that we discussed. Bo Jackson. I think that Bo Jackson obviously being probably potentially could have been a Hall of Famer in 2 sports. Obviously career was cut short by injuries, but he was magnificent. And in light of, so I didn't work today. I was sitting around, and on ESPN was, I just happened to watch the Michael Vick 30 for 30, like 2 days ago, the first part of it. And there was a Virginia Tech. I forget who they were playing today. I was watching it. Virginia Tech, Michael Vick was probably the most electrifying college athlete I've ever seen. That 2000 national championship game against Florida State was amazing. So I'm not saying Michael Vick. I'm saying Virginia Tech Michael Vick as a college athlete.
I mean, he was. I think that first year that he started when he with the Eagles, that when he had the full year after he replaced McNabb the following year. I mean, he was an MVP candidate.
Yeah, he was. There was one time on Monday Night Football where he threw like 6 touchdowns, had like 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, it's still, up until the last couple of years, it was one of the best fantasy performances ever.
We might touch back here.
But yeah, number 4 for me was Tiger Woods. All the reasons that you said. I think a couple things that you left out of there. He's got a 33% career winning percentage. So he wins
just stupid
1 out of every 3 times he goes out on the golf course, which I think in an individual sport and in a sport that is that tough to be consistent at, I think that is crazy. 31 top 5 finishes in majors. I think that's another really important one. One of the things that the Jack crew and the Jack crowd still kind of holds out there is that Jack had 19 seconds in majors.
Runner-ups.
In 48 top 3s. So, from a consistency standpoint, I think Jack was strong. Tiger's only finished second 6 times. So, look,
I actually just looked it up. I think it's 11 times in majors. Because I was just looking at this earlier last week. Maybe I'm wrong.
I just looked it up. It's 6.
Okay, but I realized, he was when he is in contention.
Yeah, he wins.
Yeah,
that's all that means.
Right.
That's what that means. So, I think it's really important. Look, the guy revolutionized the sport. Anytime you look at a player who's able to revolutionize a sport, it catapults them. And I think, every single golfer on the tour right now owes 60 or 70% of their bank account.
Yeah, that was one whole point I fucking missed. I apologize for the language at home, folks. It was the Tiger tax. The Tiger tax. There is a podcast, No Laying Up. Go listen to it if you're a golf fan. But they bring on golfers, all the time, and they actually have a guy there, a contributor, that wrote an article about it. And every single one of them, they say, how much of your career earnings do you attribute to Tiger Woods? And they say every single one of them says 50%.
Yeah, it's at least half.
Yep.
And it's like, when he's in contention, people watch. I don't think any other athlete in any sport in our lifetime has moved the needle from a viewership standpoint the way that he does, the dramatic nature of the way that he moves the needle. So, he's amazing. It was great to see him win last year. I'm excited. Those guys are going to be back in June. They're going to keep playing. Hopefully he can stay healthy and continue to win. He's only 40. I think he just turned 44. He's still probably got 3 or 4 really, really good years left. I mean, he could probably win 4 or 5 more majors.
It might be a blessing in disguise because he was banged up a little bit coming into this year, and he had pulled out of some stuff that he normally plays. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise that we didn't get this year, and maybe he shows up in November and gets another jacket.
The next one on my list is Barry Bonds. He's a 7-time MVP. Look, I don't give a shit about steroids. I don't give a flying fuck. So anybody out there that wants to talk to me about steroids, I don't give a shit, because the pitchers were using steroids. Everybody was using steroids, and he was a Hall of Famer before he even started using steroids. He started using steroids because of Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. It's well documented, so I don't want to hear it. 7-time MVP. Nobody has more than 3. He's a 14-time All-Star. He's an 8-time Gold Glove. 2,935 career hits, 762 career home runs, a 298 career batting average. His 2004 season was, it was something that you look at like Tiger in his prime, the dominance on a night in and night out basis. I mean, the guy had a 609 on base percentage. That means he was on base 61% of the time. This is a sport where if you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you're a Hall of Famer. Okay, so he doubled that. So he was twice as good as a Hall of Famer. 232 walks, The next closest guy was Eric Chavez with 95. Okay. 120 of those walks were intentional, only 41 strikeouts. He reached base more times than he had actual at-bats. It's the only time in history that that's ever happened because of walks and hit by pitches and things like that. I don't, there's really nothing else to say.
He was hit by a pitch a ton?
They look, I think a lot of guys knew that he was on juice. He hit a lot of home runs. He used to crowd the plate. Remember, he used to wear that armor on his left elbow, and he used to get in there.
Yeah.
And he would get hit. So, yeah. Look, Barry Bonds is the greatest player. The guy had such a good eye that when he wouldn't swing, the umpires wouldn't call strikes, even if it was close, because he had such a reputation as having such great eyes.
Yeah, he gets
the umps figured, well, if he didn't swing at it, because he swings at anything that's close, and he puts it out, he puts it in McCovey Cove, right? So it was one of those situations. It was amazing. It was an amazing run to watch there for about 4 or 5 years. Disappointing that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I'm hopeful that it'll happen one day. Look, but it's the Baseball Hall of Fame. I mean, look, Pete Rose is in the Hall of Fame. It's a fucking joke. I mean, so
they should both be in. No doubt.
So my next guy is Tom Brady. He's a 6-time Super Bowl champion. He's got 9 appearances in the Super Bowl. He did more with less, in my opinion, than any all-time great player in any sport. His measurables, all those things from an athletic standpoint, frame, nothing about him stands out other than his just drive, will to win. He's a Michigan man. So, I mean, it doesn't really, surprise me that he has that. He's got the most wins in NFL history. He's got a .774 winning percentage. He's a 4-time Super Bowl MVP. He is the second youngest and the oldest quarterback to win the Super Bowl. He's got 30 playoff wins, 207 regular season wins. The guy's a winner. What's the other? I got one more thing here. He never had a losing season. Never. That may change this year. We'll see. He's got 44 fourth quarter comebacks and 57 game-winning drives. He's a winner. I'm a guy that I know for some of us winning is not as important as others. I believe that we have a podcast where you actually say that winning is overrated. Winning championships, I believe you said, is overrated. I, however, do not believe that winning championships is overrated. Look, I think the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning thing is going to rage on. I don't think you're the only person on Peyton Manning Island. You go back 15 years ago, there was a John Elway, Dan Marino sort of debate, if you will. I think it's very, very similar to that, Elway, in my opinion, was a better quarterback than Dan Marino because he won more. It's one of those things. So, look, it is what it is. I'm comfortable with you thinking that Peyton Manning is the greatest. I, however, think that Tom Brady is. Number 1 on my list is Michael Jordan. In light of The Last Dance, the 10-part docu-series that everybody in the world is going to be watching except for Luke starting on Sunday, I think a lot of people, time, we are all a prisoner of the moment. And I think time has a way of making us forget how great players actually were. Saying that Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time doesn't mean that LeBron isn't great. It doesn't mean that he's, I think LeBron has a little more left to do in my book. You've heard me say this before. I think, look, Father's Day 2016, one of the greatest days of my life. I'll never forget it. What LeBron did in the 2016 NBA Finals, I'll never forget. The thing is I think, this, in my opinion, is just about an overall body of work. I think LeBron at this point, because he's been able to stay healthy, because he's a Terminator, and because he was his ability, he was really good right away. Okay. So because he was really good right away, and he's just continued to improve, and he's played a long time, he hasn't had any major injuries, he's really been able to compile stats, and I'm not going to hold that against him. That's not what I'm doing here. But I think when you start to compare numbers, it needs to be all relative. Jordan took time off. He missed his second year. He broke his foot, broke his ankle, and he was out. Look, he was a smaller player. He wasn't as durable. It was a different time. He was a drinker. He was a gambler. LeBron doesn't do that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just a different time, different era. 6 for 6 in the NBA Finals with 6 MVPs. He's got 5 regular season MVPs. 9-time All-Defensive Team. He won the Defensive Player of the Year in 1987. He's 5th all-time in points in 15 seasons. 15 seasons. LeBron's this year 17? I mean, LeBron's going to have the most points. He's already got the most rebounds, the most assists by a non-guard in NBA history. Like, LeBron is going to continue to compile. Michael Jordan was unstoppable on offense, but he had legendary defense, right? I think LeBron in spurts does really great things, kind of the greatest chase down blocker of all time, really good at jumping passing lanes and things like that. But, Jordan was really good at just sort of perimeter lockdown defense. And I think one knock on LeBron, he's got 2. I think one knock on LeBron's game is he sometimes gets lazy on the defensive end, and the free throws, man, like the fucking free throws are killer, and I think, Jordan was very clutch, always hit free throws, was a lockdown defender. So I think when you look at some of LeBron's, the holes in his game, I think, Michael Jordan doesn't have those. Now, look, Michael Jordan's not a perfect player, so let's not even go there. He left and came back. He had 2 separate three-peats. He stopped Hall of Fame legendary players from winning championships. Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller. I mean, the list of players that don't have rings because they had to go through him, I think it's a much larger list than LeBron has. And it's just not the reality. I mean, the Hall of Fame players that have played in LeBron's era, a lot of them have won rings. And some of them have won rings at his expense, right? Michael Jordan's got 22 total trophies. Those trophies include MVPs, Rookie of the Year, championships, All-Star Game MVPs, Finals MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year. Doesn't even take into consideration gold medals, which he has 2 and LeBron has 2. He's got 22. The next closest is Bill Russell with 17, Kareem with 15, Magic with 13, and then Tim Duncan, Kobe, and Shaq all with 12. LeBron has 11. That's it.
Pretty good list.
It is a good list. So let's get into the future. I mean, I think it's unrealistic to believe if we would have gone back 20 years ago, none of these, well, maybe Jordan, but none of these other players would have been on this list. It would have been a completely different list. So, in 20 years, who's your couple guys under 25 that you think have a chance to potentially be on this list one day?
So I've got one at 25 years old.
Yeah.
It was the first one I thought of, and I think you know what I'm talking about, but he's already behind a guy that
Mayfield?
What's that?
Baker Mayfield just turned 25, yesterday, 2 days ago? Happy birthday.
Yeah, Bake. Yesterday. Happy birthday, Bake. But no, it's Giannis. He's already behind LeBron. By the time LeBron was 25, he had already vanquished the Pistons, the defending champ Pistons, in that legendary series where he scored 25 straight in the fourth and overtime. It's just,
I'll never forget that.
No, it was unbelievable. Just I literally watched it a week ago in quarantine. Just out of
that was before LeBron was LeBron. That was really
he was 22 years old. I think it was 2005.
Was it that long ago?
It was either 5 or 6, 2005 or 6. And I literally just watched it last week. But Giannis is just a little bit too far behind. And that's not to say, and the way that these guys play now, I just don't know, is he going to leave? A lot of player movement. You talked about guys that Jordan had kept from getting rings. It's a lot harder for LeBron to keep guys from getting rings because there's so much more player movement nowadays.
I don't disagree.
But so I don't know. You don't know what's going to happen with this future. He's a free agent.
One thing there. LeBron, I mean, Giannis is a far superior defensive player than LeBron is. I think Giannis really has the potential to be he could win a couple Defensive Player of the Year awards.
Well,
I just don't think
that's
his
not crazy. LeBron's a 5-time All NBA defensive.
I hear you. I'm not knocking that. What I'm saying is I think Giannis has the potential to be a better defensive player than LeBron. I don't think Giannis's jump shot will ever develop the way that LeBron's has over the last 15 years.
That's fair. So he's out. Next, I got another young American phenom in a different sport than we've talked about. Is Christian Pulisic. He's a soccer player, the youngest American to go play in the Premier League. He's actually with Chelsea now. Hasn't been able to scratch the surface, but had a lot of hype after the World Cup in I believe it was 16. Hasn't really done much since because of that move to. He left his German squad and went to England and hasn't really been able to scratch the surface. But he's a guy that I think, down the line, he could be, a legendary soccer player, not just a legendary American soccer player, but, all world. The runner-up for this list for me. What's that?
This is your under 25 Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, it is. It is. I got 4 of them. Luka Doncic. MVP,
that's my guy.
MVP candidate in his second year.
That's my guy.
Triple double machine.
Love Luka.
Just unbelievable.
I love him.
Just not sure that he's ever gonna be. I think he's like a LeBron light type player. He doesn't have the physical. Just build of LeBron James, but he's that in a smaller package. Just the playmaking, the way he sees things.
I love him.
Yeah, he's great. He's
a lot bigger than you think he is, but
right.
I don't think he has the athleticism.
Yeah.
That's when he starts to fall off the cliff at like 30, it's gonna be like Dirk, where he's got to do those one-legged hop-back jumpers and shit like that.
I'm not sure because he had a controversial quote. I think it was earlier this year or in the off season before the season started. Was he's like it's easier to score in the NBA than it is in any Euro league.
That's fucking crazy. It's because he was 14 playing with grown men. That's why.
Which is fair. But I think he's gonna be able, like you talked about Dirk and you look at all those European guys, they always find ways, all the European NBA greats. They always find ways to score. Yeah, exactly. But none of those compare to my actual candidate here, which I think we all know who it is.
Baker Mayfield.
I wish it was, but it is actually Super Bowl MVP Pat Mahomes. So through his first 3 years, he is 7th with the most touchdown passes at 76. That's 31 games in. No one ahead of him has less than 43. No one behind him has less than 38. Completion percentage, he's third all time in that list at 66%. TD percentage, he's in the top 10. The guy is just doesn't matter how you slice it up. And especially if you start going per game in these kind of measures, he's on track to be, one of the greatest ever. And you know more than anyone else that I am an ardent Patrick Mahomes guy, but not even I saw this coming. I don't think anyone saw this coming with him. Just a 7% TD percentage in his first 3 years. It's just unbelievable what this guy's able to do. And I understand that the game is a little bit different now than it was played before, which makes Dan Marino's stuff even a little bit more impressive. But he has the second lowest interception percentage in that time. The guy's unreal. There's really no bounds to what he can do. I think he's with the perfect coach. I don't think there's any other team that he could have gone to. He went to a perfect situation, and I think it's just working out a lot of similar ways with Tom Brady, except they didn't have to handle him with kid gloves as far as they did with Brady. I think he's got every single making of, you talk about Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a combination of these guys. Rodgers, Favre, and Manning.
You sound like Colin Cowherd right now.
I'm just saying he's got all of those capabilities. I mean,
I think I actually heard Colin Cowherd say the exact same thing.
He probably threw Brady in there because he loves Brady.
Well, because he's a West Coast guy. Brady's from California.
Yeah, whatever. But Patrick Mahomes is my candidate to break in there.
Okay. My guy's Christian Pulisic.
Really?
He's 20 years old. He's quick, versatile. He's an attacking player. He can play either wing or he can play in the middle. He's got 10 goals in his first 25 appearances for the U.S. Look, he's making an impact in the Premier League. They have him linked to a potential move to Real Madrid down the road. He could end up becoming the greatest soccer player in U.S. history. Obviously, that's Landon Donovan right now, but he could end up being that. And what I'm telling you is when you talk about this Mount Rushmore stuff, nothing captivates this country like when the U.S. starts playing well in the World Cup.
I think the women proved that the past several years. Yeah.
So I think if he could take the U.S. team deep in, get to some of get through the knockout rounds, get to the single elimination, win a couple games, potentially get to a final or Jesus, win a World Cup, like he would go into the stratosphere because from now on for the next 15 years, he's going to be the best player on the team. So I think another thing that's really, really important right now when you talk about this dynamic is, moms don't want their sons playing football anymore. I think, I read somewhere, and I haven't read the numbers in a while, but a year back or 2 years back, I was reading that like the participation in youth football is down like 60%, and most of those kids are playing soccer now. So it's like moms don't want sons to play football. The sports landscape's going to look a lot different in the next 10 years, and you got this kid that's already a star. He's already a stud that's kind of at the forefront of that thing. So not only is he a really great player, but I think there's going to be just a higher quality of talent around him. If they win the World Cup, I mean, to me, that just takes him and puts him in a completely different space. You look at a guy like Diego Maradona or whatever in Argentina. The guy's a bum, but like he's famous for them winning the World Cup, and he's 30, 40.
He's a bum person.
40 years later, he's still like an icon. So I could see if they can win a World Cup and he's the best player on that team, that could put him up in the Muhammad Ali, Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan.
About with this whole thing was like just commercial viability. I mean, like literally every guy we mentioned was commercially viable, and I think once that U.S. team, success comes, he becomes that much more commercially viable, like Michael Phelps. And
yeah, I agree. That's it. That's all I got. I don't have a Mount Rushmore of under 25.
I think that's it then. I think we're good.
Okay. Listen, hold on. Next Thursday night, NBA draft party. It'll be on Facebook Live. It'll be on a bunch of different places. Yeah. What did I say?
NBA.
Yeah, we're doing that too. The NFL draft party, participate, support us. We'll be on this thing, Facebook Live. I think there's an IG. There's going to be all kinds of stuff out there. There's going to be all kind of communication going out on it.
Win $1,000.
And you can win $1,000, and you can just
$1,000.
And you can listen to Luke tell me I'm wrong on every single pick, which is really fun.
Ain't gonna happen.
They can get insight into how mean you are to me in real life behind the scenes.
Get out of here.
I'm out. At WC Sports Pod.